what is it going to take for the people in the UK to stand up for themselves? I don't know how. Like when I first started protesting in London after the financial crisis, like people were already struggling. Like people were losing their homes, and like their wages was being suppressed, and like rights are being curtailed, and it doesn't really feel like things are any better or people are any more mobile than they were back then. Now I know like Brexit happening and everything to do with the pandemic, and now with the cost of living crisis, like it's energizing and radicalizing people more. And it's a difficult thing to talk about because like when you think about radicalism and like being radicalized, like it's all like like terrorism, like all the bloody stuff that people study as part of their training for teaching, right? That there are things you need to be looking out for, like read under the bed, all this kind of like watch out for people saying certain things about certain things, and it becomes a bit of a taboo topic to talk about. But what I would argue that what is radical is doing nothing, going about your day, going to the pub, going out for food, going to the cinema, engaging in the economy, when there are demonstrable forces at work in the world to take away fundamental rights that people have fought world wars for. And I know that there was more to it. Like it was all about money and resources and all this kind of thing. Ultimately, that's all wars are really ever about. But yeah, I mean, there's been a coup d'état in the UK. It started way before Brexit. Really, the Conservative government coming to power in and of itself was a coup d'état. But the utilization, weaponization of AI technology and micro targeting to get Brexit over the line by such a thin margin has really delivered the kind of wholesale shift to the right that we're currently suffering with today. Because the fact that people were very like angry and agitated, but it never went further than like protests and like, yeah, it just never really goes much further than like protestation. It's like, this is your life. These are your lives. Like, I don't know what's happened in the UK where like we've become a servile population, and I mean I know that sucks to say, and like it's not a nice thing to say, but I don't know how else to define it because people just take it. I know that they have to work and that they have to feed a family and that like they need to make sure their kids are growing up well and all this kind of thing. But like, at what point is it just diminishing returns when people at a very very high level, and like this is like not even within the UK, internationally, have agendas in place to make sure that you own absolutely nothing, you'd be happy about it. It's absurd that people go about the day like without like wholesale challenging of this. Like it's just like in the past I considered myself a pacifist because having a peaceful solution where you can engage somebody in conversation and talk to them about what's going on and like have them see the other side of what they're doing so that they can ultimately change their behavior is a much more sustainable solution than going into battle in a war of ideas to make change happen. But over the years, all I've seen is that the people with the power to make decisions have closed down, they've closed off, they're putting distance between themselves and the people, I mean, the general public. You can't meet them anymore, you can't speak to them anymore, you can't contact them anymore. They've got security around them all the time. They live a sheltered and separate life with all of the money that, I mean, I don't mean this hyperbolically, like they've stolen from you. It's absurd that you have a system where governments can print infinite money and yet they still tax people because it means that they can tax you and your wealth diminishes, and when they get taxed themselves they just print the amount that they lose. It's absurd. I can see how like as like an error in the system, like in the banking industry, when like because the whole fractional reserve banking, right, is a really important topic to understand. Um, Basically, the way that money is created is that when a bank loans out money to somebody, it's not loaning out somebody else's money. It creates money to loan out and can loan out up to 99% of the money that they have on their balance sheet. Uh, anyway, yeah, I can see how it was an error in the system where somebody just invented money by accident. But then what happened is it was capitalized on to the point where now there is more like kind of virtual money than there is actual money in the world, like printed money, like by an order of magnitude. And even now, I don't know how to challenge this effectively because like I started Supernova Labs as a means to challenge this like wholesale by like decentralizing the means of production. Like, I mean, people would say it is a very Marxist ideology, but like Marx existed in the 1800s. He didn't exist in our time. Like the internet didn't exist when Marx was alive. So there's while there are things you can learn about like Marxism from like what he wrote, it doesn't really apply anymore. Like this is, was an attempt to try and invent something completely new. But by building labs so that people have the technology and the tools to fight back if and when these, like, I don't want to say higher forces because they're not, they're like just greedy, these greedy people try and take everything. Because they're set up, like they have their bunkers in New Zealand ready for the event, whatever the fucking event is. But the problem is that because this has gone unchallenged for so long, like it breeds impunity. So while I think people in the UK they have a like very stiff upper lip, and like it's laudable to an extent, but also like dangerous because yes, we can take a beating. There's no honour in how much of a fucking beating you can take, but as a result, they see that you're not reacting and that they can do this without any repercussions other than like people walking around the streets waving placards, maybe shouting on Twitter. Like, how does that really affect them? It doesn't at all. Like, if it's not hitting their bottom line or like affecting their daily life, or I mean, dare I say going as far as like damaging property. Like, it's just easy to ignore, and that's it. Like, you think that protesting does anything anymore. Like, they have learned how to ignore it, and I've tried. I spent years developing networks within the City of London, like trying to meet the people that are making these decisions and trying to get them to understand there are other ways of doing this. But they don't want to listen. They don't want to listen. They think that they have like corporate responsibility budgets and all this kind of thing because it can offset needing to care. And it's an easy shield to hide behind. I mean, I know ultimately, like, it's the institutions that are at fault, not the people, but ultimately it is still people making these decisions. It just saddens me because, like, I've wanted to find a peaceful solution, and I can just, the only, like, it scares me that, like, I find my mind drifting towards more violent thoughts. And if I'm having these thoughts, who else with less self control in a worse off position having the same? Because if and when it kicks off, and it won't be me starting it, I will be helping them. Because I've run out of options. And it's not like I've been It's been 10 years. How long is too long? I can say with absolute, not absolute confidence, but like with a very, very high degree of confidence that there are few other choices at this point. And that breaks my heart because it should be easy to see another way, and it's not. For ignorance or greed or whatever else, like the window's closed. So what do we do? I mean, we need to create parallel power in the UK to challenge the government in inverted commas, because it's it's had wholesale capture from financial institutions. I mean, like British United next Goldman Sachs banker. Like, come on, man! Like, what will it take to for the penny to drop? That we need to start again and push this out. Now, I live in Manchester. Manchester's a very central city. It's a very good place to start. And I think there's a lot of people here that could protect this and incubate it as it grows. If we pair it with Scotland and their quest for independence as well, we can bring the whole North with us. Really, it's a case of going further and further south and pressing south until we have a force large enough to take Parliament, take number 10, force out the institutions that are causing this and start again. I think in terms of goals, bringing the City of London under UK rule and dissolving the City of London Parliament so it sits as a ward and constituency inside of Parliament with parity of power and representation with every other constituency would be a start. But the difficulty with this as well is that you end up with capital flight from a country that's seeing political difficulties, as we are seeing in terms of people just up and leaving. Because I mean, you get fed up after what? Like, the people that are in the UK right now have more patience than people that are losing money and have the means to go and get it elsewhere. Like, big companies are going to start leaving. Well, they already have started leaving the UK left, right, and centre. Like, at that point, you lose a manufacturing base, you lose a capital base to rebuild from, and that's why people are talking about real terms cuts and all this kind of thing. Despite there being ways to increase tax on the wealthiest to start rebuilding this. So how do you have a conversation with people with money and power that have facilitated the capture of the UK's governance towards their interests in a way that doesn't force them out of the country, and then we end up in a communist like dystopia where the people have taken control of the government again, but they have no resources, money, or power to do anything. And it precipitates famines, it precipitates like kleptocracy and all this kind of thing, because like there is nothing that is more toxic to a society's structure than lack, and severe lack, because it puts people in a state of survival, and it's very difficult to think collectively when there are individual survival pressures at stake. There will be strategies for going from the north to the south. Maybe we need to build an army, but I don't want to have to do that. I think there is already a loose knit, decentralized network of people that work independently of one another but towards a goal, that are already beginning to understand that need. I hate to have to say this because now that I've said it, I mean, it just opens the door for suffering for so many people. And I'm not confident we can do it. Whether it's a matter of confidence or whether it's a matter of necessity, I don't know. It's very easy to go in like guns blazing, chests out, beating chests, all this kind of thing, that we all depose the government, but like it's the consequences of that that I'm mindful of and trying to avoid to the best of my ability, because in some ways where we are right now, we're less free but better off. So it becomes a personal calculus. Do you want that freedom? Because it will come at a high cost to get it back. I'm willing to fight for it. But are enough people in the UK at this point? That's where I'm at.